drummers should go first, I think. Masi, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do the opening prayer. I do believe whenever you do a prayer, it is important to pray for our leaders. When we pray for our leaders, such as the Premier, the ministers, and the members of the Legislative Assembly, and also the Speaker of the Ledge. The reason why I say that is I remember watching a televised TV on the national news when Pope Francis was about to bless the people in the Vatican while he was up there. People were waiting for him to be blessed. And then he said, in his language and also in English 3 times, he said, before you bless the people, he said, please pray for me, even as a leader. That is why it's important whenever we pray for the leaders, to make sure that we pray for them to make a good decision for the people that you represent. That's all I have. I'm going to say for now, and then I'm going to say a few little words in my language, and I will do the Our Father in Kinchon language. Masi. Did they get chicken that don't ya will a question? And Nashia Haya Kiasi, Sahu it only Masi on the said there the Masi in the home. The hind so high seen the honey. Nahia Haya Tigan. Yet have a yet done isn't you? Was it out here haunted in the Gotaya Honada Colani the Gata in the Ninkai one day. Yak and the take or you get the next in the take one day. What are the Tata that it's and going the dog with son or taken against all taken only. What is the ones are going to do not here haunted in the Yet have a yet done isn't you? Was it out here haunted in the Mercy? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please be seated. Good afternoon, colleagues. Welcome back. It's great to be here. I'd like to thank the Clecho Drummers for opening our session today. Also, like to thank Elder Jonas Lafferty for his opening blessing. Please join me in thanking him for a wonderful start to our city. Before we continue, I'd like to take a moment to honor Mr. Joe Arkuluktuk, a former member of the Legislative Assembly who passed away just before Christmas. Mr. Arkuluktuk was first elected in Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly in 1979 and was re-elected in 1983 and 1987, representing the constituents of Baffin South. He served 3 consecutive terms from 1979 to 1991. Mr. Arkuluktuk was a devoted public servant and a strong voice for Inuit communities during a pivotal time in the history of our territory. On behalf of this Assembly, I offer my condolences to his family, friends, and community. Please join me in a moment of silence for Mr. Arkuluktuk. Colleagues, I've said this before, I'll say it now. I expect to hear respectful words and see respectful behavior in this chamber. We cannot and will not always see eye to eye. That is okay. It's okay for us to disagree with each other, but we must do so without being disrespectful. We can and we must choose our words carefully to show our respect for each other and this institution and our residents. It is our responsibility as members of the Legislative Assembly to uphold the highest standards that are expected by our residents in both deserved and required by this institution. I expect thoughtful, meaningful, and honest debate. I've been clear in this message since you selected me as your speaker. Not only is this what I expect for you, it is what is expected by the people we represent in this chamber. Colleagues, we are more than halfway through this assembly. Time sure flies when we're having fun, doesn't it? Regardless of our role, this is a place where we often feel like we do not have enough time to do all that we want to do. I know that feeling well, as I'm sure you do. Colleagues, while our time is limited, I want you to take stock of all that you have accomplished in the first half of this assemblies. The ministers and member statements that have been delivered in this chamber, the questions asked and answered, the motions moved and carried, the work of your committee and departments. Your achievements have been many, and there's still time for more. Well, I want to encourage each of you to look ahead to the remainder of this assembly and think of the things that you need and want to accomplish. Think about how you can achieve those goals. Think about who you can work with and how you can make a difference in the lives of those who elected you. About how we can all work together effectively and how we can contribute to a better, brighter future for all residents in the Northwest, in this territories. To put it simply, let's get to work, folks. Let's make the best of the time we have left and make a difference for our people. Colleagues, please join me in welcoming our interpreters back to the House. February is an Indigenous Language Month. When we use our language in this House and when we have our proceedings interpreted, we are helping to preserve and strengthen our language. We do this to show our respect for the language and culture of our people, and we could not do it without our interpreters. Colleagues, please remember to speak slowly and clearly for our interpreters. And please join me in thanking our interpreters and welcoming them back to this assembly. I'm also pleased to welcome our pages to the chamber. During the sitting, we have pages from Yellowknife, Hay River, Kikisa, and Sitichek. I am proud of our pages program. I thank the pages for joining us during this sitting. For the pages who will be joining us during this sitting and all youth across the territories, I would like to take this moment to remind you about the upcoming Youth Parliament. This program is open to grade 9 and grade 10 students from across the territories. Applications are due on February 15th. If you would like to apply or just want some more information, please visit our website at www.ntassembly.ca. Colleagues, I am proud of our Youth Parliament program. It is an honor for us to be able to provide an opportunity like this for our youth. I am also very proud that we have been able to host youth from other jurisdictions. Most recently, we hosted youth parliamentarians from Tobago in December 2025. Last fall, I had the fortune to attend a Commonwealth Parliamentary Association conference where I met the Honourable Abby Taylor, who is the presiding officer for the Tobago House of Assemblies. We quickly connected and over our prospective youth parliament programs. Although our programs are different, they are both designed and intended to provide opportunities for youth to help them become more engaged and acknowledgement about their systems of government. These programs and the many other youth parliamentary programs that exist in other jurisdictions are about investing in our youth and our future. In December, the presiding officer, Taylor, led a delegation that brought their youth parliamentarians to Canada. Their trip included visits to the Legislative Assembly of Ontario in Toronto and the National Parliament in Ottawa, and to visit us here in the Northwest Territories. We are pleased to have the Tobago delegation attend a standing committee meeting, meet with members of our Legislative Assembly, as well as staff and some of our former youth parliamentarians, and to tour our beautiful building. They were even able to get out and experience our Northern Lights. Finally, colleagues, I have received the following correspondence from the Commissioner of the Northwest Territories, the Honourable Gerald W. Kassoum. It states, Mr. Speaker, wish to advise you that I recommend to the Legislative Assembly of the Northwest Territories the passage of Appropriation Act Operation Expenditures 2026-2027, Supplementary Appropriation Act Operation Expenditures and Borrowing Authorization Number 3, 2025-2026, Supplementary Appropriation Act Infrastructure Expenditures Number 3, 2025-2026 during the February to March 2026 sitting of the first session of the 20th Legislative Assembly. Yours truly, Gerald W. Kassoum. Thank you, colleagues. Minister statements. Mr. Premier.
Mr. Speaker, we gather today at a significant moment for our territory and for our country. It's a moment of change and uncertainty, but for the Northwest Territories, it's also a moment of opportunity. The world is rapidly changing before our eyes. We can no longer count on the traditional international rules, norms, and alliances that have helped Canada prosper over the past 80 years. We are witnessing unprecedented efforts at economic coercion and foreign interference in our political systems, a blurring of lines between allies and enemies, and internal threats to our national unity on multiple fronts. At the same time, advances in artificial intelligence are poised to reshape sectors of the economy in ways that are yet to be seen. Understandably, the change and uncertainty in the world can leave people feeling anxious or scared. However, Mr. Speaker, when I look around the territory at our infrastructure deficit, the lack of economic opportunities in many communities, the high cost of living, availability of housing, access to healthcare, and public safety concerns, I'm less concerned about change and more concerned about continuing the status quo. There was a time in the very recent past when it felt like the North was an afterthought, if it was thought of at all. Today, the eyes of the world and the attention of the federal government have shifted northward. The strategic importance of the Northwest Territories to national security, to critical mineral supply chains, to energy security, and to Canada's very future as a strong and independent country has come into sharp focus over the past year. Our mission now is to ensure that we take full advantage of this moment for the benefit of the people of the Northwest Territories. We must transform the attention from the federal government and industry into economic opportunities, more homes, better access to basic health care, supports for healing, and safe, healthy, and thriving communities. In the same way that Canadians must remain united to face down external threats, Northerners must be united if we are to capitalize on these opportunities. We need to work together, make strategic and informed decisions about things we can control, and remove any self-imposed barriers to success. The contributions of each and every resident are important to advancing these goals. Mr. Speaker, there's an urgency to this work, and we feel that urgency every day. Economic changes across the territory, such as the decision by Imperial Oil to cease hydrocarbon production in Norman Wells and the instability in the diamond mining sector, mean that many residents not only feel the urgency, but are being impacted in very real ways. We must ensure that those residents whose livelihoods are negatively affected are supported and that there are new economic opportunities available to them. We believe in empowering Northerners to work, to contribute, and to create strong and vibrant communities. Mr. Speaker, this government is committed to ensuring that the Northwest Territories plays its full role as a cornerstone of a secure, prosperous, and united country, and we can only do that if we have an economically stable and healthy territory. To do that, we are making pragmatic choices, grounded in principles, and done in partnership. The work ahead is serious, but so is our confidence in the people of this territory and the future of this country. Together, we will continue moving forward while grounded in our values, clear in our purpose, and focused on delivering real results for Northerners. At the same time, we will continue strengthening Canada's presence and asserting sovereignty in the Arctic, now and for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, a strong economic foundation is essential to enhancing personal and community wellness and to promoting self-sufficiency. Together with our partners, we're advancing major projects that will shape our economy for decades to come. Work is advancing quickly on the Mackenzie Valley Highway and the Arctic Economic and Security Corridor. These nation-building projects will strengthen Canada's Arctic sovereignty, connect our communities to markets, and support the responsible development of critical minerals and energy resources, all while improving connectivity and lowering the cost of living and doing business in the North. We're also moving forward with the Tulsan Hydro expansion to improve long-term energy security and help power tomorrow's economic opportunities. We are continuing to enhance our existing transportation infrastructure. With support from the Government of Canada, construction is underway on the Deke-Frank Channel Bridge Replacement Project near Betchico. This project will improve safety, remove restrictions on heavy loads, and strengthen a critical transportation link. This project also supports economic growth, critical mineral development, and the Arctic Economic and Security Corridor, and is creating opportunities for Indigenous employment and participation. The NWT's strategic location in the Arctic means that we are poised to see significant investments related to national defense. An advanced procurement notice shows this investment could exceed $10 billion over the coming years. That spending comes alongside the federal government's stated commitments to reconciliation, creating opportunities for Indigenous businesses and communities through contracting, employment, and training. This is a transformational opportunity for local economic business development and one that we intend to maximize in partnership with the federal and Indigenous governments. Looking beyond direct investments in military and dual-use infrastructure, we must remember that the NWT boasts a wealth of resources that can support global economic transitions and further enhance our sovereignty and security at home. We are among the most resource-rich places in the world, Mr. Speaker, with an abundance of precious metals, critical minerals, and oil and gas deposits to help fuel Canada's economy and secure a domestic supply chain of strategic resources. These natural resources place the NWT at the forefront of Canada's economic potential, and with strategic investment, will create great opportunities for our residents and businesses and for all Canadians. Together, these efforts are building a stronger, more self-reliant territory, one with new opportunities for Northerners who are ready to rise to this moment. Mr. Speaker, a strong economy must translate into stability at home. Jobs, infrastructure, and growth can only deliver real results if people have safe, suitable, and affordable places to live. This government is taking action across the full housing continuum with a focus on community partnership and results. In Inuvik, the homeless shelter has entered a new chapter of community leadership with the responsibility for shelter operations transitioning from Housing NWT to the Inuvik Homeless Shelter Advisory Board. This reflects a long-standing community goal to have homelessness services guided by local voices, while ensuring uninterrupted services for those who rely on them. In Yellowknife, a new transitional housing facility opened in December, operated by the Yellowknife Women's Society. With space for 24 individuals, it provides a safe, stable place to live, while accessing the programming and support that will help bridge the gap between homelessness and permanent housing. We're also accelerating housing supply through strong partnerships with Indigenous governments. Housing NWT has entered into construction agreements with Indigenous partners in Fort Smith and Fort Good Hope, and recently signed a memorandum of agreement on housing with the Acho Denico First Nation in Fort Liard. This agreement sets out how we will plan, buy, and deliver housing together, so the homes we build reflect what the communities actually need. Since the start of the 20th Legislative Assembly, 81 housing units have been replaced. Another 155 are currently under construction, with an additional 64 in planning or procurement, bringing us to a total of 300 units across the housing continuum to be delivered during this Legislative Assembly. Together, these actions reflect a clear commitment: more homes for Northerners, better housing, and community-driven solutions that deliver dignity, stability, and opportunity. Mr. Speaker, economic strength and housing stability mean little if people do not feel safe or if communities are not well prepared when emergencies strike. Keeping Northerners safe, supported, and informed is a core responsibility of this government. Over the past 5 years, the Northwest Territories has faced some of the most challenging emergencies in our history: floods, wildfires, and repeated evacuations that have tested our systems and our communities. We've listened, we've learned, and we've acted. In response to the after-action reviews from 2022 and 2023, and to lessons learned in real time, we have strengthened our emergency management system. We are working with the NWT Council of Leaders and community partners to review the Emergency Management Act. We have updated the NWT Emergency Plan to clearly define roles and responsibilities. We have enhanced training for community governments, invested in emergency communications, and improved how resources are pre-positioned so help arrives faster when it is needed most, and so communities are more protected than ever before. Safe communities are also built through strong planning. That's why we've launched the NWT Community Planning Framework. This framework gives community governments the tools they need to guide growth, protect the environment, and plan for the future, while reflecting local priorities and Indigenous knowledge. It supports housing and infrastructure development while integrating climate change considerations to help communities build long-term resilience. In addition, we're supporting community and Indigenous governments with flood mapping to inform emergency preparedness and land use planning. We are also supporting practical, community-driven safety initiatives. Safe growth pilot projects are underway in Hay River, Fort Providence, and Fort Smith, working with residents to apply crime prevention through environmental design principles. We are also providing law enforcement and communities with more tools to combat crime by advancing multiple pieces of public safety legislation this term. Whether through stronger emergency preparedness, thoughtful community planning, or more effective enforcement, this government is focused on ensuring safe communities for Northerners. Mr. Speaker, healthcare is one of the few systems that touches every resident, no matter our age, income, or circumstances. And the quality of our healthcare experience comes down to three things: access, respect, and reliability. Access challenges are felt most strongly in our smaller communities. We are strengthening the community health nurse-led model used in small communities while making it more flexible to respond to ongoing staffing pressures. That includes expanding the role of licensed practical nurses and paramedics in community health centers, supported by nurse practitioners and expanded virtual care, so that residents in small communities can access more essential services closer to home. In larger centers, we're working to improve access to services for those who need them most. Service integration teams have been created in Inuvik, Hay River, Fort Simpson, Betchiko, and Yellowknife to identify and remove barriers to access and to improve coordination among service providers. For now, these teams are focusing on supporting residents who are experiencing or who are at risk of homelessness. But the lessons we learn through this initiative will help us move closer to our ultimate goal of creating a culture of person-centered service delivery across government. Mr. Speaker, the healthcare system must be grounded in trust, respect, and cultural safety. To ensure these values are reflected in the services we provide, We are working directly with Indigenous governments and communities through shared governance, co-design, and the integration of traditional healing and local wellness priorities, guided by frontline staff, elders, and families. When care is not available close to home, residents rely on medical travel. Dealing with medical issues can be stressful enough on its own. Medical travel should not add to that stress. That is why we're modernizing the system to make it more consistent, efficient, and easier to navigate. We are streamlining processes, improving communication, setting clear service standards, and developing practical tools, including a medical travel manual, to ensure residents experience a more reliable and less stressful journey for care. This work is a priority, and it's happening now. These are a few of the ways we're working towards improving access to basic health care to support healthy people and communities across the territory. Mr. Speaker, Canada takes pride in being a northern country and an Arctic nation. However, Arctic sovereignty is not something that can be declared. It has to be asserted through presence and investment. It is built through the people who live, work, and stay in the North. It is built through resilient communities, reliable infrastructure, and public services that work in northern realities. Northerners will soon turn their attention to another powerful expression of Arctic presence and identity. Next month, Team NT will represent the Northwest Territories at the 2026 Arctic Winter Games in Whitehorse, the world's largest circumpolar multi-sport and cultural gathering. More than 600 Northerners from over 20 communities came together in January to earn a chance to represent the territory. Up to 355 athletes and cultural participants will compete in 18 sports, including Arctic sports and Dene Games, traditions rooted in survival, skill, and connection to the land. This is more than competition. It's continuity, it's culture. It's the next generation carrying forward who we are, visible, capable, and present in the Arctic. Mr. Speaker, sovereignty is built by people who belong to the land and who are supported to stay on it. It's built by communities that are healthy, safe, and connected. It's built when governments choose to invest in the North. That investment is coming, and we must capitalize on it for the benefit of all Northerners, for those who are here today and those who will lead us into the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Minister statements. Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to advise the House that I will deliver the budget address on Thursday, February 5th, 2026. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Finance. Minister statements. Minister statements. Member statements. Member from Inuktitut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today as the member for Inuktitut to congratulate the newly elected Chair and CEO of the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation, Mr. Irwin Elias. I look forward, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to working together in collaboration for the benefit of Inuvialuit and our constituents. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Dwayne Ningasak-Smith for his 10 years of service as the Inuvialuit Regional Corporation Chair. Koinaini, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Inuktitut. Member statements. Member from Range Lake.
Mr. Speaker, the world today is very different from when we took office 2 years ago. Our once stalwart ally and partner, the United States, continues to violently dismantle the prosperity and security we once built together. Last month, Prime Minister Carney captured this moment clearly in his address at Davos. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. As Northerners, instability has long been our reality. We are all familiar with the instability of climate change as the North warms 3 to 4 times faster than the rest of the world. Our permafrost is thawing, sea ice melting, and natural disasters of unprecedented scale and frequency are being unleashed upon our communities. Yet climate change has also exposed us to the ambitions of great powers. Russia, China, and now the United States have set their sights squarely on our abundant resources and strategic territory. President Trump's strategy of divide and conquer is a clear effort to bully us into handing this land over. And foolishly, some believe they can play along with his corruption. Separatists in Alberta, in their misguided admiration of his greed, are flirting with treasonous sedition, convinced that tearing the country apart is some kind of game. Mr. Speaker, Canadians stand united against any threat to our sovereignty, and we stand ready to welcome new allies who will join us in building an alternative to chaos and authoritarianism. To our friends in Greenland, a NATO ally and fellow Arctic nation committed to self-determination of their Indigenous people, I say this: we've got your back. But to this government, however, I say it's time to follow in the Prime Minister's lead and step up. A strategy of reckless optimism, blaming others for inaction, and waiting for a rescue from the federal government is no way to realize our destiny on our own terms. Now is the time to harness our potential and take our rightful place as the first and foremost leader in the circumpolar world. There is no middle way between our choices of survival or surrender. Will this Premier choose a true north, strong and free? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, member from Range Lake. Member statements. Member from the Sawtooth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welcome back, colleagues. Norman Wells oilfield closure, another nail in our NWT coffin on the economic side. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to speak about the matter of profound urgency for my home community and the entire Sawtooth region, a matter that strikes at the very core of our economic survival and our ability to exercise true sovereignty in Canada's north. Last week, our Premier, Mr. Simpson, appeared before a standing committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development. His message was clear, Mr. Speaker. Sovereignty is not merely claimed through words, it is exercised through development, investment, and presence, through the thriving communities and robust infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, for a century, Norman Wells has been an oil and gas town, a beacon of prosperity for the entire Sawtooth region. People made a living, built futures, raised families with hope and dignity. Norman Wells was a showcase for the resource-rich region and the NWT. Imperial Oil's announcement on shutting down production this year is nothing less than an economic sword through the very heart of the Sawtooth. There are families left wondering if they have a future, youth residents asking whether there is any future here in the region, elders watching a century of community history come to a devastating close. The business community left with costly mental stress and hard reality of decisions. Mr. Speaker, but even in crisis, there is an opportunity. We stand on the threshold of building the famous Mackenzie Valley Highway, a project that represents connection, access to markets, and the very sovereignty our Premier spoke about. Sawtooth deserves a fighting chance at economic prosperity. The federal government speaks often about Arctic sovereignty and northern development. Well, Mr. Speaker, here is the chance to put words into action. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Later I'll have questions to the appropriate minister. Merci.
Thank you, member from the Sawtooth. Member statements. Member from Yellowknife North.
Mr. Speaker, as this term goes on, the list of challenges facing the territory keeps getting longer. It's so tempting to keep piling more and more demands on our public servants. Save our economy, decent housing for all, get crime under control, healthcare, addictions, graduation rates, build roads to every community in mind. Just a few simple asks. Oh, and solve everything faster because we only have a year and a half left. And cheaper because our debt's out of control. Amidst this overwhelm, I'm going to risk sounding like a lunatic or hopelessly naive because I want to first talk about literacy. Literacy. Come on, we're a modern society, everyone's literate, except for maybe a few folks with disabilities, right? Well, a study from 2003 found that almost half of our youth aged 16 to 25 could not read or write well enough to fully participate in society. Almost half. 70% of Indigenous adults and 30% of non-Indigenous adults were found to not be functionally literate. Struggles with math skills were even worse. Since then, we stopped even trying to measure literacy rates amongst either students or adults. So picture a child who is struggling to read in the early grades. Maybe other students are picking it up naturally, but this child is not. So they get the idea early on there's something wrong with them. As they get older, school keeps getting harder. Maybe they skip school or act out and then get labeled as a troublemaker. After grade 9, they either just drop out entirely or get really good at faking it and manage to slip through without the basic skills to enter further training or schooling. There's so much shame and embarrassment around illiteracy, people are good at hiding it. So they're going to avoid trying for a driver's license or trying that trades entrance exam, avoid filling out applications, avoid applying for jobs. They're stuck, bored. They're likely to turn to crime, addictions. Their housing will be at risk. Even if they decide to go to a treatment program for addictions, they're likely to drop out because it involves reading and writing. What if we tried to find out how many of our unemployed youth and adults are functionally illiterate? How many of those in our criminal justice system? How many of those needing addictions treatment? Mr. Speaker, I ask for unanimous consent to conclude my statement.
You, member from Yellowknife North. Member from Yellowknife North is seeking unanimous consent to conclude her statement. Seeing no nays, you may conclude your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to my colleagues. Mr. Speaker, we have got overwhelming problems, and we've got to find threads we can pull on that can lead to transformational change. I believe literacy is a key thread that we've been ignoring and plan to speak more about it this session. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife North. Member statements. Member from Frame Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last week I had the privilege of attending the AME Roundup Conference in Vancouver as the representative for the Standing Committee on Economic Development and Environment. The conference gave me the opportunity to observe our cabinet colleagues at work and attend numerous informative meetings and sessions. I wanted to share some of my high-level takeaways from my experience at the conference. The first thing that stood out to me was the incredible amount of work and time our ministers, premier, and staff put into advancing the interests of the NWT. It was a very busy week, packed with meetings from morning to night. The Minister for ITI was my host for the conference, and one meeting that stood out to me in particular was the Western Mining Ministers Summit, where ministers signed an MOU on developing a Western Canadian minerals strategy. I noted that our minister commanded a lot of respect at that table and was impressed at how prominently the North stood out in a discussion with ministers from bigger jurisdictions. It was obvious our southern neighbours saw the importance of featuring the North in this strategy, so that was really encouraging. Something else that stood out to me was the importance of the territory coming together and speaking with one voice at the national level. I had the opportunity to chat with someone who could be a funder for major projects here in the NWT, and they emphasized the need for a cohesive message and all the players pulling together towards a common goal. When competing for funding with many other worthwhile projects, if we aren't all pulling together, we'll lose out to projects that are more cohesive. So I think it was really encouraging to see our government sign an MOU of cooperation with the Clecho and Yellowknife's Dene and see our Indigenous governments working together. Watching Chief Ernest Betsina deliver an opening address for YKDFN at Clecho Night felt like a historic moment. When we set our priorities for this Assembly, we emphasize that we are stronger together. I stand by that message, Mr. Speaker, and really believe it is the key to our success. The territory is facing difficult challenges, but also has some big opportunities we can grasp if we work together for common good. So while I know this sitting is going to involve tough questions and tough conversations, I will continue to approach my work in a collaborative way as you have encouraged us to do, Mr. Speaker, as I really do think that is the key to our success. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Frame Lake. Member statement. Member from Great Slave.
Mr. Speaker, Happy New Year and welcome back. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, a work colleague and neighbour reached out and asked me if I had ever heard of radon. I was able to say yes, I had. My father had told me to get our home tested not long before we had our conversation. My neighbor told me that her family's home basement was testing high and that she was going to investigate mitigation measures. In 2023, I purchased my own battery-powered radon monitor as my home has a crawl space. After a year's worth of testing, I found that although my house is not experiencing extreme readings, it is still high enough to consider mitigation. Mr. Speaker, much of the NWT is in a high radon hazard zone. Radon is an invisible, odorless, radioactive gas produced by the breakdown of uranium in soil. Radon gas is the second highest contributor to lung cancer after smoking. Just before this session, CBC News reported on this silent threat that is present in much of our country. Since 2024, I have been talking to several ministerial colleagues about radon and what the GNWT is doing in this space. In essence, Health has a website outlining health concerns. Housing NWT is working on monitoring and mitigating radon levels in public housing. And every homeowner who receives an EnerGuide home energy evaluation from Arctic Energy Alliance receives a report that includes a health and safety overview highlighting radon as a concern for households. And, well, that's about it. The good news is that testing is not hard. Small portable devices are easily purchased and shared amongst neighbors. It helps to have a longer time frame of testing, but especially getting winter readings when doors and windows are closed, as radon readings are higher as a result of trapped air. While getting readings is relatively easy, there is not a lot of local capacity in the NWT to install passive radon mitigation systems. In essence, these systems are a way to vent the gas from basements or crawl spaces. These systems range in price, but are not cheap one-offs. In speaking with the Minister of MACA before the holiday break, he agreed that radon is a concern in the territory and noted that he has seen high levels of radon in his region. Later today, I will table a jurisdictional scan of what provinces and territories are doing to test and mitigate radon for their residents. I will have questions for the Minister on what supports we can offer our NWT communities in taking on this health hazard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Great Slave. Member statement, member from Ophwe.
Merci, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Today, the thing I want to talk about is regarding British Columbia legislature. In November, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. They are talking about doing without the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. We celebrate that day, and it's a very important day for us.
Mr. Speaker, although these remarks were made in another jurisdictions, their impact reaches across this country, including here in the Northwest Territories, where the legacy of residential schools is deeply felt and where reconciliation is an ongoing and essential commitment. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation was established in response to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to actions. It is a day dedicated to honoring survivors, remembering the children who did not return home, and advancing public understanding of the history and intergenerational impacts of residential schools. Statement made in the BC legislature denying this history and calling for the repeal of the day are deeply troubling. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is not about assigning shame. It is about acknowledging truth documented through thousands of survivors' testimonies, including many from the Northwest Territories. It is about recognizing that the harms of residential schools were real, profound, and lasting. Mr. Speaker, acknowledging this history does not detract from the achievements Canadians are proud of. Rather, it strengthens our national narrative by ensuring it is honest and complete. Reconciliation is not an accusation. It is a responsibility. It reflects our collective commitment to healing, respect, and a better future for all who share this land. Mr. Speaker, instead of retreating from this commitment, we must continue to uphold it. Truth is not divisive, and reconciliation is not optional. It is a path forward for our territory and our country. Mr. Speaker, I will have questions for the Premier.
Thank you, member from Moultrie. Member statements. Member from Nuvik-Boot Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welcome back, colleagues. I too would like to congratulate Mr. Erwin Elias on his election to the as IRC Chair and Chief Executive Officer, as well to thank Mr. Dwayne Smith for his 10 years of excellent leadership in the region as well. Mr. Speaker, as the Premier stated, the eyes of North America and indeed the world continue to be focused on the Arctic. With the recent federal procurement notice of up to $10 billion in spending in the northern operational hubs of Inuvik and Yellowknife, we have the potential for a huge economic benefit.
Huge.
Mr. Speaker, this is more than just infrastructure. This can be a gateway to further economic opportunities. Much needed resource development, LNG, critical minerals, roads connecting our territories and bridges, Mr. Speaker. We have to be ready. And as the Premier said, there's an urgent need to get work done. We have work to do. We have to resolve the issue around land transfers so communities like Inuvik can be prepared when land is required to build this infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, we have to ensure that our ongoing infrastructure projects, such as runway expansions and bridges and gravel sourcing, are on track and completed without delays. We have to ensure that our federal government has the confidence in our government that we are ready to meet this challenge, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
That we are engaging with our Indigenous government partners to ensure we are working shoulder to shoulder.
Yes, we can.
On the heels of this procurement announcement, now is the time to convince and lobby our federal government that the Mackenzie Valley Highway is a true nation-building project, and that funding it and connecting the two northern operational support hubs will be significant for defense and sovereignty, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we're all pulling on the same rope on this one, but we as a government, as my colleagues in this building, have to ensure that we are indeed pulling hard enough. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Inuvik-Boot Lake. Member statements. Member from Mackenzie Delta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welcome back to the staff, interpreters, and all my colleagues to the Legislative Assembly. Today, I would like to start this session off on a positive note. It is evident that we do have a lot of residents throughout the Northwest Territories who have the potential to succeed in their career paths, whether they are from Yellowknife, one of the regional centres, or one of the smaller communities. Mr. Speaker, one success story of an Indigenous woman from a small community of Tsiga-Chik has made her dream come true. Her real intentions were to get a ticket to work on the Louis Cardinal Ferry for seasonal employment, but she excelled in her studies and is now part of the Canadian Coast Guard team. Mr. Speaker, I would like to read an excerpt that speaks to the accomplishment of this young Indigenous woman from Tsiga-Chik, and I quote, "First Indigenous woman deckhand hired through the Canadian Coast Guard Arctic Region's Indigenous Participation and Training Initiatives. We're thrilled to announce the milestone of the Canadian Coast Guard's Arctic Region's Indigenous Participation Training Initiative. Amanda Andre Nidici has become the first Indigenous woman deckhand, a proud graduate of the Western Arctic Marine Training Program from Tsiga-Chik, Northwest Territories. Amanda is now based in the Canadian Coast Guard Western Region and sails aboard the Canadian Coast Guard ship Tanu. Having completed 2 28-day rotations, she's embracing life at sea with enthusiasm. Welcome aboard, Amanda." End quote. Mr. Speaker, I would like for all my colleagues and the residents of the Northwest Territories to applaud the accomplishments of this young Indigenous woman from the small community of Sigachik on her milestone career path with the Canadian Coast Guard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Mackenzie Delta. Member statements. Member from Trinidad Willity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we signed treaties to secure and enduring promises of continued livelihood and survival. Those treaties define our ongoing relationship with the Crown. And then the Crown presents in the North has grown from RCMP Patrol to Canadian Post Deliveries, a sprawling network of Department of Public institutions. Amongst the most crucial to our people are the services they ensure access to health care. Responsibility for administration and health services eventually transferred from Ottawa to Yellowknife Northwest Territories, with the responsibility of care sacred duty to ensure these services honor the treaties and fulfill the promises made to our people. Health is a treaty right, Mr. Speaker. However, health and social services continues to fail in providing essential services and medical transportation. In an emergency situation, our people are often forced to pay out of pocket to travel for care that is needed. A recent example, this painfully clear a Trinidad Willity constituent was flown to Yellowknife by air ambulance and was expected to leave her newborn baby behind. If this had been in a scheduled appointment, her young family may have been accommodated with a room, but emergencies, which makes up a significant portion of medical travel, allow no such consideration. Emergency medical travel falls outside the program scope. This family was on their own. This is far from an isolated case. The problem is so severe that this assembly was forced to pass a motion calling on the government to fix this policy gap. Yet there is still no commitment to develop a compassionate medical evaluation policy. This is clear failure to uphold treaty rights. Health and social services appears not to be honoring the Crown obligation to health of our people. If the minister will now act on the consensus of this assembly, she must act on the consensus of our people in the spirit of reconciliation. The government must fully implement UNDRIP as a mandate by the last assembly. Implementing UNDRIP is not an optional. It is a core feature of our own mandate letter, along with our own duty to work with Indigenous governments on medical travel policies. If the GWT cannot administer health care in a way that honors the Crown obligations to our people, we constituents are left out asking the question, should the GWT be administering the health care policy? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Trinidad Willity. Member statements. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A single moment in Yellowknife apartment building not long ago has ignited an overdue conversation. While the courts will handle the specifics of that particular incident, the truth is undeniable. The NWT is standing at a crossroads of public safety. Mr. Speaker, for years people have operated in a legislative shadow, in a dark place. Time has come to put private security industry into the light. Mr. Speaker, the opportunity is here. Look across the map of Canada, from the Pacific to the Great Lakes. Canada has already got gold standard legislation. We're not reinventing the wheel of security legislation. We're just joining the movement, Mr. Speaker. British Columbia has mandated rigorous licensing, criminal records checks, and a strict code of conduct. Alberta, our southern neighbor, built a powerhouse system of discipline, of oversight, and accountability. Sounds great to me. Ontario has set the bar, Mr. Speaker, with a province-wide training in de-escalation that the legal forces use to ensure people are safety. So currently, Mr. Speaker, as we all know, the Northwest Territories has zero territorial legislation system in place. There's no mandatory training. There's no formal oversight. There's nothing. Our security guards are on the front line, sometimes high-stakes situations, dealing with mental health crisis issues, they're dealing with complex public safety issues, and yet left without the legal compass to help guide them. Mr. Speaker, this isn't about red tape. This is about empowerment. We need bold vision, a Made in the North process. But, Mr. Speaker, on that note, there'll be more. Mr. Speaker, what we're looking for is we're looking to give workers protection, the public protection and confidence, and prevention through proactive solutions. Mr. Speaker, key legislation could help here. What am I talking about? Well, allow me to expand. Mr. Speaker, under the Dennis Patterson government in 1991, they enacted a law called the Locksmiths, Security Guards, and Security Occupations Act, but it was never proclaimed. What a shame. Mr. Speaker, I'm prepared today, tomorrow, or even during this session, whether it takes a private member's bill, a motion, it's time we get this existing act on the books actually into action, protecting Northerners. Mr. Speaker, I'll have questions later today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yonge Centre. Member statements. Member statements. Colleagues, with great sadness, I want to celebrate the life of a remarkable young lady, Twyla Isaiah, who was born on November 18, 1999 in Yellowknife to Robert Hardesty and Elaine Isaiah, and who left us suddenly on November 9, 2025. Through her time with us was very short, or it's far too short. The warmth, laughter, and love she gave will live on forever in our hearts. Twyla was more than a daughter, sister, auntie, cousin, and friend. She was a beacon of light that everyone blessed to know her 7 siblings, Trish, Nathan, or Natasha, Preston, Jordan, Carson, Wesley, and Jarrett. Twyla grew up surrounded by love and lively energy. Even in her big family, she found ways to stand out, shine through her kindness, humor, and effortless way to make you feel valued. There are moments so small yet so powerful that they tell you everything about a person's heart. For Twyla, it was something as simple as stopping her dad on the street just to give him a hug and to say, "I love you, Dad." The small act would brighten even the darkest day. Her love for her parents was endless. The way she showed care for her mom was unmatched, and her selflessness was something that everybody witnessed time and time again. I had the pleasure of knowing this young lady personally, sometimes asking her to house sit, sometimes running into her at the store or on the street for a quick, cheerful catch-up. No matter how brief those moments were, one thing never changed. Twyla's presence made you feel special, loved. She had the rare gift. Colleagues, I can tell you Twyla faced life's challenges with kindness and grace. She reminded us that even when obstacles appeared, we have the power to meet them with love. She showed us how to love our parents unconditionally, to care for others selflessly, and to leave with compassion. Today, as we remember her, let us carry forward those lessons. To love as openly as she did, be gentle yet strong, and to bring light into the lives of those around us. Twyla's spirit will live on in every person she touched, and her family, her friends, and communities that had the pleasure of calling her one of their own. Her legacy is one of compassion, selflessness, and love, and quality that will continue to guide us every day. Being respectful of time, I'd like to have the remainder of my speech to be deemed as read and printed in Hansard's. Rest peacefully, Twyla. Your light will never fade. Sorry, Cam Lake. Member statements? Member statements, Cam Lake. So.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today is National Girls and Women in Sports Day. When girls play sports, they're not just chasing a ball, crossing a finish line, or scoring a goal. They're chasing dreams, climbing over barriers, and scoring victories that last a lifetime. Sports teach courage, discipline, and the unshakable belief that no challenge is too big. These lessons are life-changing. Every sprint, every jump, every game builds confidence, grit, and leadership, qualities that carry them far beyond the field and take a lifelong outlook from I can't to I can and I will. Studies show that girls in sports are healthier, more confident, and often perform better academically. But beyond numbers, sports give girls something priceless: the voice to speak up, the strength to stand tall, and the courage to keep going when life gets tough. They often come with built-in community, mentors, and support networks. Yet too many girls still face barriers, and those barriers look different across the Northwest Territories. Fewer opportunities, less support, and outdated stereotypes that ultimately serve none of us. We must break down these walls, create opportunity, and stay involved. And when we give girls the chance to play, we give them the chance to lead, inspire, and yes, change the world. It doesn't need to be elite Olympic-style training either. Getting out snowshoeing, lifting weights, join the ping pong team, but watch out for Fort Providence, they're deadly. Mr. Speaker, sport requires champions. Volunteers are the fuel that move our kids, and I am so thankful for the sport champions across the territory, like Shakita Jensen, award-winning hockey coach with no kids of her own, but out there consistently leading youth. Like Caitlin Fabian Farrell, creating safe spaces for girls to learn strength training. Like Toby Taylor, who coaches every sport the school offers. Alex Malico, who with young kids of her own and a busy job continues to show up as a coach and travel for Special Olympics. Like Veronica McDonald, who routinely dominates in Arctic sports, inspiring the next generation of Northern athletes to dig in. And mums like Aurora Kodakak, who live by example. I'm not sure where Aurora gets her energy, but she's an inspiration with an endless battery life. So let's cheer loud, let's invest more, and make sure every girl knows that the court, the track, the field, the gym, and the trails are hers too. Because when girls rise in sports, they rise in life, and when girls rise, we all rise. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member statements. Member statements. Returns to oral questions. Returns to oral questions. Recognition visitors in gallery. Recognition visitors in gallery. I get the pleasure of recognizing my constituent assistant, Deborah Richards, who has graced us here present this week, and I'd like to thank her for being here today. She's just keeping track of me, that's all. Recognition of visitors gallery. Recognition of visitors gallery. Member from Yellowknife South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to have 2 pages from Yellowknife South with us this week, Celestia O'Brien and Joshua Kostash.
Recognition of visitors in gallery. Recognition of visitors in gallery. Member from the Nutboot.
I'd like to recognize Julie Thrasher. Julie is a constituent of Yellowknife, but a member of the Mackenzie Delta, and we're both from Aklavik. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from the Nutboot. Recognition of visitors in gallery. Recognition of visitors in gallery. Member from the Mackenzie Delta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to recognize Julie Thrasher, who's a friend and a supporter from the people of the Mackenzie Delta region. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Mackenzie Delta. Recognition of visitor gallery. Recognition of visitor gallery. Member from Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to acknowledge and recognize Ms. Julie Thrasher. Sorry, I'm tongue-tied today. I'll say it again. Ms. Julie Thrasher. She lives downtown in Yellowknife, and I know she's certainly the eyes and ears of a lot of things that go on, and I appreciate her support and friendship. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Recognition of visitors in gallery. Recognition of visitors in gallery. If we've missed anyone, oh man, I'm having a hard time with Cam Lake. Member from Cam Lake.
I had my arm way up high, but I need to hold it higher, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much. In addition, we have a great number of wonderful pages in the room today, including some from Cam Lake. We've got Mika Kochilia, Aviana Nadaway, as well as Mia Dyson joining us from Cam Lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. If we've missed anyone in the gallery today, welcome to your chambers. I hope you are enjoying the proceedings. We thank you very much for the honor representing everybody from the Northwest Territories and getting us the privilege, short privilege of representing you here. It is always nice to see people in the gallery. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Recognition of visitors in the gallery. Acknowledgements. 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 Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, recent news reporting has led to some good news for the Northwest Territories. As much as $10 billion is hanging over our territory as part of the NORAD Northern Basin Infrastructure Program, with development and design construction to continue to 2039, with some of those contracts out for tender now. I know our Premier has been doing the circuit on television, at FTP meetings, at standing committees. So can he tell us if we are on track to receive this money, to get this money invested in our communities? Are we ready and able to spend it and start to see that economic growth today? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Range Lake. Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the money the member's referencing was made public through a pre-procurement announcement that was intended to allow potential contractors to prepare to bid on the contracts. So it's still a lot of details left to be hashed out on this, but the whole purpose of this pre-procurement announcement is to ensure that people can get prepared to do the work that needs to be done. And so people are already talking about ensuring that employees in the territory have the appropriate security clearances, that we have appropriate tradespeople ready to go, but it's unclear yet what those procurement notices mean. So we have to wait until likely a budget is passed, and then the Department of National Defense will provide more information. So it is a federal procurement, and I don't have many more details than what has been made public already. Thank you.
Member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And there's a lot of attention on this, obviously, because our economy is in poor shape. Mr. Speaker, it's good that this procurement process is going to let other private sector make themselves prepared for this money, but is the government prepared? So a lot of this is about developing new infrastructure, airport hangars, all that kind of stuff. We need land, we need permitting, we need all these things done. Is this government prepared with those steps to support the private sector, support D&D, and make sure this money arrives on time and revitalizes this economy? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Range Lake, Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and we are well aware of the opportunities that exist, and we are treating this as essentially another major project that could be advanced. And so there's great efforts being made to ensure there's coordination across government. We're working hard to coordinate with the federal government, although they have their own processes, and the Department of National Defense, I believe, kind of does things their own way regardless. But I know that there's efforts to change that culture, because from my discussions with the Prime Minister, with the Minister of National Defense, there is a big focus on ensuring that the infrastructure is infrastructure that is useful to the community as well. They talk a lot about dual-use infrastructure. They want to ensure if there is military facilities in the territory, that the people of the territory see those benefits. So I have been working to get that message out that when this procurement happens, we need to ensure local employment, local benefits. And on our end, we're working with, like I said, the government departments, development corporations, and now with this procurement announcement out, it's time for the local businesses to ready themselves as well. And we want to approach this in a coordinated fashion. Thank you.
Supplementary. Member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I'll ask one direct area of public policy. This requires all of government approach. We need land. We need land available for the development in Yellowknife and Inuvik. My colleague from Inuvik Boot Lake mentioned this as well. Will the Premier eliminate all barriers within the GNWT policy realm to transfer the lands that the City of Yellowknife and the town of Inuvik have been asking for? Yes or no? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Range Lake, Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So eliminating all policies is a pretty broad request. There is probably some policies that are required to be there. And there's probably other policies that we could do without or that require modification. And I know that the minister responsible for environment and climate change is focused on this. And as a government, we want to address this long-standing issue, and we will address it before the end of this government. And with this procurement now looming, it's more urgent than ever. So yes, we're going to move forward with that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Premier. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Milne Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With approximately 607 days left in this Assembly, we often ask for things and the government says, well, we're too busy and can't get legislative drafters. Mr. Speaker, I spoke about a Securities Act today that was developed, went through committee in the Assembly in the 90s, Mr. Speaker. It hasn't received a cent. So my question for the Minister of Justice is the Minister aware that the NWT has a Locksmith, Security Guards, and Other Security Occupations Act sitting out there, not enacted? Thank you.
From Milne Centre, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am not familiar with the act to which the member references, but I will certainly have my staff pull that document out and give it a good look over. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Milne Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the benefits of ministers having dual roles, I get to ask the same minister sort of the same problem. Will the Minister of Justice work with the House Leader to bring forward this particular act so we can either review it or just simply enact it. Thank you.
Member from Yonge Centre. Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to sit down with the Government House Leader and review the Act together, and once we've had that opportunity, we will see what direction it goes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Justice. Member from Yonge Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the urgency that the minister will take communicating to the other ministerial duties. Mr. Speaker, in all seriousness, would the minister commit to have an update before the mid-session break on what they can or will be willing to do on this particular legislation that's been sitting out there for 35 years doing nothing since 1991? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Yonge Centre. Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to take a look at the Act and see what's involved in bringing it to the floor or to review of committee, etc. But having no direct knowledge of it at this specific time, I will have to have an opportunity to review it first. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Justice. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Nuvik-Boot Lake.
Mr. Speaker, following up on my member statement and my friend and colleague from Range Lake as well, I kind of mentioned the infrastructure investment. $10 billion is a lot of money. My question's for the Premier, and I know, information or details right now around the investment are pretty sparse. I get that, but through his dialogue with Ottawa, with his federal counterparts, has there been any indication that some of this enormous amount of funding would be used for major projects, namely the Mackenzie Valley Highway? Thank you.
From Nuvik-Boot Lake, Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I can speak to what I saw in that, that sort of pre-procurement notice, and that is that it is for things within those forward operating locations, so runways, hangars, etc. It does not speak to major projects. That's not to say that the federal government's totality of their expenditures related to defense in the territory will be limited to those two communities. So I'm still very, very hopeful and optimistic that there's other sources of funding from the federal government. Thank you.
Premier. Member from Nuvik-Boot Lake.
Mr. Speaker, and thank you for that. A little bit of a tease in there. I like that potentially we could have some funding for our highway. We have three major infrastructure projects that we know we have listed. We've discussed in this House many times. And again, not to put anyone on the spot, but would the Premier say that the Mackenzie Valley Highway, given that it is shovel-ready and it is further along than all three projects, would be the #1 project that we would be certainly expressing to Ottawa that could be done and done now when it comes to Arctic sovereignty? Thank you.
Thank you, member from Nuvik-Boot Lake. Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Mackenzie Valley Highway is getting a lot of attention from Ottawa right now, and I'm continuing to promote that highway. And when I meet with the Prime Minister, he talks about the highway before I get a chance to. So this is definitely something that the federal government is well aware of, and they see the value, not just to the people of the Northwest Territories, but to national security. The Mackenzie Valley Highway, it's coming out of environmental assessment, and there's already portions of it that are permitted for construction. So there's some bridges that we can begin working on. There's community engagement that can be done. So this is a project that's ready to go very, very soon. In some instances, it's ready to go today. And so it's not a great comparison to say we have a project that's ready to go today and we have one that's going to be ready to go in a number of years. Maybe by the time this one's done, it's hard to rank those as 1 and 2 because sequentially there's a sequence. The first one will come first, the second one will come second, but it doesn't mean that we have to attribute a priority to them. If they were both being advanced, if they were both at the same place right now, and they could both start construction tomorrow, then that'd be a different story. But the fact is that we have a sequence, and I think that sequence is going to work well for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from the Sawtooth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to my previous colleague on highlighting the Mackenzie Valley Highway. Further to my member statement, it's got to be recognized that I sent out a briefing here earlier to this question. My first question to the Minister of Strategic Infrastructure: will the Minister support and endorse the Gwich'in Tribal Council and the Sahtu Secretariat land claims, Chapter 20 and 21, with the federal government, which addresses access for Armed Forces Division, providing the capacity is there? Mussey.
Member from the Sahtu, Minister responsible for strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chains.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do want to acknowledge very briefly that the MLA is forever here working and finding ways to advance this project in every possible angle, including looking at land claims chapters. Mr. Speaker, that said, it's not the position of me as a minister to endorse specifically any particular chapter. I certainly can say that we do continue to be mindful of the land claim chapters to ensure that the Indigenous governments themselves are, at the forefront of the considerations of planning, and to the extent that they can make use of those chapters as partners as we go forward to Ottawa, then certainly we look forward to that. In the meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, the GNWT will continue to ensure that we rely upon and use the established processes that to which their members may be signatories and Indigenous governments may be signatories. Thank you.
The Minister responsible for strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chains. Member from the Sahtu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the Minister for that reply. And I encourage others to familiarize themselves with, more specifically, the Sahtu Chapter 21.3.2, which really addresses a procurement process to secure that capital project. My next question to the Minister is, when will the Minister of Strategic Infrastructure submit the completed Ernst & Young business case for Phase 1 of the Mackenzie Valley Highway?
Member from the Sahtu, Minister responsible for strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chains.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are right now completing the work plan that was signed with the Mackenzie First Nation, and one of the deliverables there is that we will be submitting the DAR addendum report in July, and alongside that will go in the business case. So that is, July would be the deadline on that, but in the meantime, Mr. Speaker, that is not stopping anyone, any minister here from advancing and advocating for this project, using already the very well-known principles of what will make this project such an important asset for the government of the Northwest Territories, for the people of the Northwest Territories. Thank you.
Minister responsible for strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chain. Final supplementary. Member from the Sahtu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're making progress. We have targets and deadlines so we can achieve our accomplishment. My third question there, Mr. Speaker, is when will the Minister arrange for a joint Indigenous governments group to engage in a campaign engagement meetings with our federal counterparts on that specific project?
From the Sahtu, Minister responsible for strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we certainly already in October had the opportunity to be in Ottawa alongside Indigenous governments, the Sahtu Secretariat, as well as the Pesquet First Nation, and the member for the Sahtu, all conducted a co-hosted and presented a Mackenzie Valley Highway engagement attended by federal ministers, a number of businesses, foreign dignitaries. It was very well received. I would certainly look forward to doing something similar again. I can say, Mr. Speaker, there's an intention amongst the Indigenous governments who line the entire route, both Phase 1 and Phase 2, all the way up to the Gwich'in Tribal Council lands, to return to Ottawa. I would hope that that will be this spring. I don't have a date set, but I'll certainly want to get word out as soon as we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister responsible for strategic infrastructure, energy, and supply chains. Oral questions. Oral questions. A member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So my questions are for the Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. As I said in my member statement, a study from 2003 found that almost half of our youth aged 16 to 25 could not read or write well enough to fully participate in society. 70% of Indigenous adults, 30% of non-Indigenous adults were not functionally literate. First question is, does the minister have any data or even anecdotal evidence to tell us whether our functional literacy rates amongst youth or adults have been getting better or been getting worse since 2003? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Muriel Nath-North, Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, the survey that was done in 2003 that the member is referring to was done by Statistics Canada. And the most recent version of a Statistics Canada study that was done in 2022, 2023, and unfortunately the most recent study did not include the Northwest Territories. So we do not have updated trend analysis information that would allow us to compare to that study that was done in a similar fashion. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So does ECE or do the school boards even keep data on literacy levels amongst students at any grade in the school system, whether that's early learners or high school students? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Member from Yellowknife North. Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the answer is yes, but it's certainly the type of information that's gathered varies by both age and purpose, and we don't have a single territory-wide number. It's worth noting that the territory is currently in the process of transitioning to the BC curriculum, and there will be consistent literacy and numeracy testing and graduation assessments that are done as part of that. So those will be done in grade 4, grade 7, grade 10, and grade 12. And because of the change in regulations that affords for more information sharing to the department, we will be in a much better position to track that data. Thank you.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Final supplementary. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Final question for now in my information gathering mission here. I'm curious whether income assistance navigators have any tools to help identify or flag struggles that clients might be having with literacy, and then do they have any ability to link them with available supports for literacy? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Yellowknife North. Minister of Education, Culture and Employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this is done in kind of two different fashions. So the first is ensuring that client navigators are serving residents with the supports that they need in order to understand the paperwork that they're completing. We know that sometimes people need supports in other languages, sometimes they need added supports, sometimes those supports come as well from members in this House. And then the secondary kind of role with literacy supports is kind of those pathways to training or to supports for education that people might be looking for, supports for the knowledge of different programming that's happening in a community, for example, with the Literacy Council employability programming that's happening in some small communities in the territory right now as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Education, Culture and Employment. Oral questions. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my questions today are for the Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. The process to mitigate radon is not complicated, but professionals who can install these systems are not extensively available throughout the territory. Mr. Speaker, I'm not asking the GNWT to find cash to set up private homes and businesses with mitigation solutions. Rather, Mr. Speaker, I'm asking if the Minister of MACA has any interest in creating a coordination function at his department so that residents could mass book specialists from other jurisdictions to realize cost savings of booking en masse. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Great Slave, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So radon testing in private homes is not within the mandate or authority of the Department of Municipal and Community Affairs, and I do appreciate the member's desire to coordinate. However, MACA does not oversee environmental health issues, and this is not in the area that MACA has any funding for or staff supports for. However, I will say, though, just because of the concern that we have, I'm interested in collaborating with the member to try to get resources available for residents. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Municipal and Community Affairs. Oral questions. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister. I'm happy to collaborate. Mr. Speaker, Housing NWT is working to address radon concerns with contractors when high levels are found in public housing. Would the minister consider discussing any kind of coordination approach, maybe he and I can chat about it further, with LGANT or the NWT Association of Communities, in addition to discussing successful options for securing contractors with housing NWT? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Great Slave, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's something we can discuss with the Housing NWT. However, I'm not going to commit to anything on behalf of Housing NWT. And radon testing and mitigation in private residential dwellings is not an area that MACA holds responsibility for. As such, MACA is not lead with coordinating work on radon testing initiatives. The federal government has a lot of information for action plans for municipalities, and also the Department of Health and Social Services has a great website on radon information in the Northwest Territories. And I've also asked the department to share resources and information with LGANT and NWTAC and get that information out to the members, and I believe this has already been done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Municipal and Community Affairs. Final supplementary, member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that the minister does not hold this function. I'm hoping to create a conversation amongst all communities as we look to address this issue. So that's what I'm speaking to today. I'm hoping he can review the jurisdictional scan I will table later today. And Mr. Speaker, will the minister talk to municipal leaders at the upcoming NWT Association of Communities Bear Pit about possible actions that we can support with the GNWT's resources? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
A member from Great Slave, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I appreciate the interest on radon mitigation. And I will review the jurisdictional scan that is going to be tabled. However, radon mitigation in private homes, again, is not the responsibility of Municipal and Community Affairs. And as a former municipal councillor and government official myself, I'm always happy to hear from municipal leaders on issues that are important to their communities. Any discussion on radon would focus on sharing information, helping direct communities to possible external resources rather than undertaking new MACA-led initiatives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Municipal and Community Affairs. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Mophie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my questions are for the Premier. What specific actions will our government take to ensure that misinformation or denialism about residential schools, such as the statement made in the BC legislature, does not take root here in the Northwest Territories, particularly in our schools and public institutions? Thank you.
Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I understand that the bill that the member is referencing in the BC legislature was handily defeated. I believe it was 86 votes against and 3 votes for. So even there, I think there's a clear understanding that residential school denialism is not appropriate and it's not factual, obviously. And so here in the Northwest Territories, I say we are the leaders in Canada in reconciliation, working with Indigenous peoples. Specifically, when we speak to how we are going to educate the population, one of the things we do is we have Northern Studies courses in schools that all students are required to take, and those speak to residential school. As a government, we've developed the Living Well Together program where new GNWT employees, or all GNWT employees actually, have to take this, and this speaks about the history of the territory, including residential schools. And so we have a number of ways to try to educate the large swaths of the public in this area. And of course, we have to remember that half of our population is Indigenous and very much familiar with the history of residential school as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Premier. Member from Mophie.
Mr. Speaker, I am aware of the defeat of the motion that was introduced, but there are people out there with that kind of mindset. So we need to let the public know that that is wrong. So how will the GNWT reinforce its public commitment to the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation and support communities, survivors, and Indigenous governments so that the day continues to serve its intended purpose of truth-telling, honoring survivors, and educating the public. Thank you.
Member for Moofy. Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And of course, we've enshrined that day into our legislation. And so it's only this House that could actually remove that as a day that we recognize here in the Northwest Territories. We're doing, again, as I said, everything we do, we try to do in partnership with Indigenous governments. We do with the spirit of reconciliation. We're doing things like moving forward with the residential school monument here in the capital that will, always highlight that part of Canada's history. You know what? I like these questions from the member, and we're doing a lot in this space. So what I would like to do is come back to this House with a written response for the member. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Premier. Final supplementary, member for Moofy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, given the harm that denial-less statements can cause to survivors and their families, what additional supports or engagement will the government of the Northwest Territories provide to ensure that survivors in the Northwest Territories feel heard, respected, and protected when other jurisdictions undermine or challenge the realities of the residential school system? Thank you.
Member for Moofy. Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I think that's incumbent on all of us to do, to support each other. Personally, I will continue to speak about the history of the territory. One of my primary roles when I travel around Canada is to educate people on the history of the territory. I was actually just in front of the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs, the Parliamentary Standing Committee in Ottawa, and they asked me what's the biggest issue we face in the territory, and I said it's trauma that came from residential school and colonialism. So I'll continue to be out there speaking to Canadians about this, and in the territory, it's important that people know that the government understands this. I understand this. I'm aware of the impacts that this has had, and it's always in our minds when we move forward, when we look at our healthcare system, housing, some of the social programs through employment insurance. The impacts of residential school are at the forefront of our considerations, and so I want the residents of the territory to know that we are always putting our mind towards this in support of them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Premier. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Trinity-Willity.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Health. The Premier made opening comments on this health today, and he talked about access, respect, and reliability. And in the 19th Assembly, we signed UNDRIP, so we talked about that a little bit as well. But, Mr. Speaker, part of the priority of this government, access to health care, is one of the four top priorities of this government. In the letter from the Premier in June 12, 2024, in that mandate letter from the Premier to the Minister of Health, it talks about, I'll just read this section here. It says that, can the Minister, working with Indigenous governments to advance modernization of the GNWT medical travel policy. Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister, can the Minister update the House on what advancements were made in the last 27 months to modernize the NWT medical travel policy? Thank you.
Trinity-Willity. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are many things that are ongoing right now, but one of the things that we had to do that was really priority was the medical response. So that's our air ambulance. We had to negotiate a new contract, which is only negotiated every 10 years. This is to make sure that anybody who needs emergency air ambulance out of a small community into the capital, or from a regional center to the capital, or to the south for whatever care that they need, that was a priority. That was done. The other pieces that we are working on right now is we are working with NIHB. As the member has stated in his member statement, the medical travel pieces are to surround the patient and getting them access to care. However, for First Nation and Inuit, we administer those on behalf of the rules that the federal government give us to do their program. They're the funder of the program, and if we do not administer their program under their rules, then they do not give us the money to run the program. So one of the things that we have been doing is working with our counterparts in Ottawa is to ensure that they understand the logistics of the North and our small communities, and how our small communities and our seniors, our elders in our communities don't comprehend a lot of English. And this is some of the work that we were able to take them with us on the Nahende tour. And they went into the small communities, heard from those communities. And so the work that we did through that, the work that we're doing on modernizing the medical travel that will also aid in some of the things that, I can't speak to the upcoming budget, but it's the work that we're doing that's going to help to make those changes. However, there is still many areas that we are working on, and throughout the rest of the term of this government, we'll be able to finalize that and implement those changes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Social Services, member from Trinidad-Willity.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I talked about my constituents. I've been medevac here, a young mother. We're in an awkward position, and leaving them more or less homeless because of the policies that of government prohibit them from getting help. We've been at this business since 1967, and I guess my question to the minister is that, is there a way we could create a contingency account until proper due process is done in Ottawa to approve medical travel for patients here in Northwest Territories? We should have an emergency fund. We've been at it for 59 years. So is there something that we could do to help in that area? Thank you.
Trinidad-Willity, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the piece around air ambulance and medevacs is to get the patient to care. And sometimes, unfortunately, there is no, patients can't take, or the plane can't take other family members due to the amount of space and it's about getting the patient to the care that they need. What I would recommend is that anybody who, if their family members are leaving, it's reaching out to medical travel prior to, jumping in your vehicle and driving, because there are processes in place, and sometimes, it's unfortunate. We're looking at the air ambulance because right now there isn't an exception or there isn't a policy around escorts when there's air ambulance. However, with NIHB, which they will not delegate that to us, they can, with the doctor and everybody, can put in an exception request. With that exception request, sometimes there's an approval and sometimes there's not, but they don't delegate that to our administration. They hold that to them because that's up in their, for them, their decision making. We are working on them with them right now to look at all of the things that they have approved to see if there's a way that they can delegate that to us, which we could do an approval a lot faster. And we're hoping within the next, within these next couple of months that we will have that work done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Health and Social Services. Final supplementary. Member from Trinidad-Willity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am a little concerned that our treaties number 8 and 11, signed in 1900 and 2000, 1921, and we have rights on health. And Mr. Speaker, my concern is that the policy of government now is overriding our treaties. And so when we turn down help for our constituents who are treaty members, and we deny them because we're hiding behind policies. In terms of moving forward and collaboration and implementation of UNDRIP, what can we do different now as we develop new policies to work with treaty communities and without impacting their treaty rights on health? Thank you.
Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with healthcare, access to healthcare, anything that's an insured service, doesn't matter whether you're treaty or not, you will have access to those services, and we will get you to those appointments if you are the patient. Where it comes into always an issue is when the patient has the approval to travel, but when there's no escort and the escort is denied. Those are the pieces that we're trying to work on, because right now we have increased the amount of escorts over the past last 2 years since I've been in here. The amount of escorts have increased. We are approving more escorts. We are streamlining the process a little bit better, those who need them. But there is still some work to do with NIHB on those circumstances related around air ambulances, because there isn't, and that is not something that's delegated to us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Oral questions, a member from Yelnay Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to follow up on some of the comments made by my colleague from Range Lake. Mr. Speaker, the GNWT has been criticized by being a cumbersome process in the transfer of land by the City of Yellowknife, but not just them, Indigenous governments, businesses, and industry, Mr. Speaker. So my questions are directed to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change. What barriers is the Minister prepared to remove or is currently removing to ensure that the GNWT does not stand in the way of the $10 billion northern investment by the National Defence? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Yelnay Centre, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Environment and Climate Change has been working very closely with the City of Yellowknife. We recently signed a memorandum of understanding to collaborate on bulk land transfers and moving land within the city. Currently have been meeting with the department on a very regular basis. We just had a meeting a week ago to talk about these potential requests that are going to come from the Department of National Defense, and we certainly recognize that this is a very important opportunity for the Northwest Territories, for the City of Yellowknife and the town of Inuvik, and we are prepared to work with both of those communities as well as with our Indigenous partners in both of the regions to advance this as quickly as we can. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Member from Yelnay Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure what MOU the minister is referring to. I believe the last one, the City of Yellowknife, either theoretically or metaphorically or whatever you want to call it, tore it up. In other words, they believed it wasn't working. Mr. Speaker, to the point, $10 billion doesn't come around every day, and it's certainly worth dedicating a dedicated team for this to help Yellowknife and the town of Inuvik, Mr. Speaker. So my question specifically is, does the minister recognize the opportunity of aligning as a department in a way so it can help facilitate and accelerate this extraordinary opportunity to ensure it isn't lost? Thank you.
From Yelnay Centre, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I certainly recognize the opportunity here. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for the Northwest Territories as a whole. One of my priorities as minister has been to focus on land and the ability to transfer land to communities. That's through collaborative work with housing, with MACA, to ensure that we are putting forward our resources in a way that maximizes those opportunities. We've added additional resources, and we've really gone on an effort to focus. Our primary focus was on housing, but it's very clear to me that working with the communities to advance the land requirements for these mega projects to ensure that we get the maximum benefit from the $10 billion is certainly a priority. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Final supplementary, member from Yelnay Centre.
Mr. Speaker, just a few short weeks ago, the city was telling us that the land process and transferring process continues to be bogged down. Mr. Speaker, I know a lot of numbers get confusing, but I'm going to say one lands employee, using round numbers, is $150,000. I would hate to think 0.0 0.00015 would stand in the way of $10 billion. That's a percentage, Mr. Speaker. So would the minister take action to ensure the ball isn't dropped, and can the minister explain what type of action he's going to do and accelerate to ensure this investment opportunity isn't lost in Inuvik and in Yellowknife and Northerners at large? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member from Yellowknife Centre, Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned in my earlier response, we currently have a memorandum of understanding with the City of Yellowknife that we signed in the fall. It's a new version of the agreement. We have been working very closely with the city. There's a number of parcels that have been identified as parcels of interest from the Department of National Defense, some of which are already in the possession of the city and have the ability to work with the Department of National Defense to move those requests forward. And certainly as a department, we have dedicated staff to this process. We realize the importance and significance of doing this, and we are totally committed to working with all of the partners involved, including our Indigenous partners in and around the City of Yellowknife, to ensure that we move this forward in a way that meets everybody's interests. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Environment and Climate Change. Oral questions. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to take an opportunity to ask the Minister of Justice. A few weeks ago, the GNWT announced its position with regard to the federal government's assault-style firearms buyback program. And it was reported in the media as the GNWT stated it would not be involved in the federal buyback program, and that our territory's RCMP would be directed to not get involved. So that's left many residents, particularly those concerned about rising gun crime in our communities, confused as to whether the program applies in the territory at all. So my first question is, can the minister clarify whether the federal assault-style firearms buyback program will be going forward in the NWT? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member from Yellowknife North, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the program is a federal initiative, and it will go forward in the Northwest Territories. It started, I believe the initial process started in the middle of January. It will be administered by the Department of Public Safety at the federal level. My understanding is that they are going to bring in some reserve RCMP officers from outside the territory to help administer that across the Northwest Territories. Our focus from the GNWT perspective is that we have staff challenges with the RCMP across the territory, and we need to have our folks focused on our current challenges within our borders, with the levels of gun crime and drug crime that are in our communities, and that's where we will be focusing on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Justice. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I know there was talk of sort of like a mail-in program, but can the minister clarify, will there be federal staff or contractors physically traveling throughout the territory to collect firearms directly from NWT residents? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Yellowknife North, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at this time I don't have that level of detail. Like I said, it's a program that is run by the federal government. It will be entirely administered by the federal government. And what their work plan looks like across the Northwest Territories, I could not say at this time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Justice. Final supplementary. Member from Yellowknife North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So finally, can the minister clarify, is this an optional program, or are all owners of assault-style firearms on the list required to participate in this buyback program? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Yellowknife North, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I understand it, letters were sent to all registered owners of assault-style weapons that fall under this program, and it is a mandatory requirement to be completed by the 31st of March 2026. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Justice. Oral questions. Oral questions, member from Range Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, another component of this new defense investment is, well, the Inuvik Airport, but of course the Yellowknife Airport as well. The Yellowknife Airport has its own revolving fund, and last year saw over 618,000 passengers. It's time that it got some real investment. The revolving fund isn't moving quick enough to invest in the needs, and it's certainly not moving quick enough to invest in the needs of $10 billion that is going to revitalize the economy, create jobs and growth. Will the Minister of Infrastructure commit to investing more funding into the Yellowknife Airport, make it a major project, and develop this so it's ready for that new military investment? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Rangeley, Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the member is probably aware that the Yellowknife Airport is going through strategic planning sessions on the type of work that needs to be done at the Yellowknife Airport. Those are ongoing. They've completed public engagement and they're continuing with the engagement. So the Department of National Defence and the Department of Infrastructure, Government of Northwest Territories, have all been communicating on the types of assets and resources that are required for their projects at the airports. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Infrastructure. Member from Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I didn't hear a commitment there, but I will ask more details. So has the NORAD, Northern Basing Infrastructure Program's needs, have they been inserted into that strategic plan? Are we going to see a strategic plan that specifically is focused on those goals, focused on meeting those needs, and focused on bringing those dollars to the north? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Rangeley, Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The strategic planning and the work that's been going on has actually been slowed down in order to wait for D&D, and essentially what we heard was coming. And now that we know a little bit more, the work is ongoing, and there is plans with the strategic planning and everything else that's been going on with the Department of National Defence to build that all into the Yellowknife Airport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Infrastructure. Final supplementary. Member from Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the pace is what worries me. Plans within plans within plans does not sound like we're getting anywhere very quickly. So will the minister, can the minister reassure me and Northerners that that plan and the necessary investments in that airport will be done by the time this money starts rolling out? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Rangeley. Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said earlier, this is ongoing work with the Department of National Defence, and the Department of Infrastructure is constantly working with them. I would hate to say that we're going ahead to do something at the Yellowknife Airport that goes against their plans and definitely puts us back. So again, this is an ongoing working thing with the Department of National Defence, and we continue to work with them in order to achieve their goals of what they're trying to do in the Northwest Territories, Yellowknife and Inuvik. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Infrastructure. Oral questions. Oral questions. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Rule 7.2(7)(2), I have received follow-up information for the following oral questions from the first session of the 20th Legislative Assembly. 771, 784, 785, 789, 792, 796, 801, 804, 811, 813, 814, 815, 822, 823, 835, 840, 844, 848, 849, 851, 860, 861, 866, 879, 880, 881, 883, 887, 893, 899, 901, 902, and 903. These follow-ups will be printed in full in today's Hansard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job, Mr. Clerk. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Rangeley. Yellowknife Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to use this short opportunity to ask a question to the Minister of Health. We had a brief conversation over lunch hour with respect to medical travel, and it got me to thinking during that time, an hour or so ago, what is the Minister doing to open up for public dialogue and suggestions on repairing problems and challenges with medical travel. Could she open up a forum or a discussion board or something that they can receive direct input on stories, individuals? So that question is for the Minister of Health.
Yellowknife Center. Minister of Health and Social Services.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. Some of the things that we're working on with, yeah, because I was like lost. I thought we were moving on and I didn't know you guys went back. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister of Infrastructure, or Minister of Health and Social Services. Back to the question, member from Yellowknife Center.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm always happy to repeat the best question ever. Mr. Speaker, I said I had a brief conversation with the Minister over lunch hour regarding medical travel, and it got me to thinking during that time a couple hours ago, which is there a way the department can set up some type of forum or way to receive information on challenges individuals have been receiving through or going through medical travel in a way that we can help repair or fill some gaps on the system, sort of like I don't know how you do it, a flow system in, but it's not meant to be a dialogue. Anyway, the point being is then we need to hear direct stories from people about ways of their challenges they're facing and ways maybe we can help deal with some of those challenges. Thank you.
From Yellowknife Center, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We do have the Office of Client Experience as the NTHSSA is the administrator that does the medical travel, and so I've had these conversations with the CEO and the public administrator, and they really encourage people when they're having issues to make sure that they're raising them with the Office of Client Experience as well. Anything that comes from my office is tracked, and we do have a long list of the things that, and those are the things that we are working on. However, that would be my first area that I would suggest, because all of the Office of Client Experience complaints and process, and I can see if there's a way that we can kind of streamline a medical travel route through that, if that works, and I can get back to the member on that. Thank you.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Member from Yellowknife Center.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ever so briefly, I was on the City of Yellowknife website about snow removal, and they had a bunch of Q&A simple questions as why you don't do that or why this isn't being done, and you clicked it and it explained why this wasn't being done. Mr. Speaker, there could be a great chance for medical travel to help communicate some of the things. As I'm highlighting, I'm not only going to briefly highlight one example, plane alignments with schedules. So in other words, that question could be is why aren't they aligned, or better, you could have, we're working on this, this is the progress, those type of thing. That way people feel the government's listening. So Mr. Speaker, is something like that feasible, or could you recognize the opportunity there within? Thank you.
From Yellowknife Center, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, right now online we do have the where we are with the medical travel. There's a portal online. I can share it with the members again on the progress that we're working on. But what I can do is also highlight that there is going to be a new manual, whether it's, and if we can break some things down to our most common FAQs that, that could, or in a general email box that people could probably send in some things, I can bring those back to my department to see how that can be done. I do believe that some of the work that'll be coming out, and I shared this with the member, is, as we've all heard, is the service standards, and so that has been a directive that I have given to the department to have a response and an implementation plan on how they're going to do service standards within making sure patients have their travel at a certain time before, so that they can actually, if they don't have an escort or something like that, they have a period of time that they actually have time when they're not getting on the plane to figure out why they don't have an escort. So there are different things, but I'll take those back. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Social Services. Final supplementary. Member from Yellowknife Center.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I can keep this one quite short. We need a platform so people can see the questions are being heard, because not everything needs to be an assembly question and problem solved here. Everything, so people need to know these questions are being worked on, and that's the platform I'm suggesting. Does the minister, again, see the opportunity here to more in a more transparent way communicate the struggles the department sees, hears, and is working towards solutions? Thank you.
Thank you. Member from Yellowknife Center, Minister of Health and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will take that back to my department, and I can I see it as a good idea. I know that we do have a lot of, communication is one of the things that I'm always trying to see how we could do better. And so I will take that back and see what we can, and I can even let the member know where we'll go with that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Health and Social Services. Oral questions. Oral questions. Member from Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, fine option programs are crucial components of the justice system that allow different ways of people who run afoul of the law to repay their debts to society in a way that doesn't involve jail time or setting them up for failure. In recent travels on the Trespass Act, I became aware that there are some concerns in communities around the accessibility of these programs. So can the Minister of Justice tell me, are fine option programs and community justice committees or their equivalent available in all NWT communities? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
From Rangeley, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the fine option community justice programs are available, and I can't stand up here and say that it's every community. I believe it's a large number of the communities, and certainly something that we've been working very closely with local Indigenous governments to help to administer those programs within those communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Justice. Oral questions. Member from Rangeley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need community justice committees for these programs. So can the minister just clarify if there are community justice committees in all NWT communities? Thank you.
Rangeley, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that option is available to all communities in the Northwest Territories. Right now, I'm happy to come back and provide the information to the member if every community has taken up the opportunity to participate in that program. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Justice. Final supplementary. Member from Rangeley.
Well, thank you. I welcome that information, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is about access to justice and ensuring there's a level playing field for everyone, especially people we are trying to rehabilitate and return as productive members of society. Mr. Speaker, I understand that there are other ways to do this. There are ways to make this process an online portal where everyone in the Northwest Territories could access it. Is the minister willing to look at expanding this, having a one-stop shop, modernizing the approach, because apparently there's ways to do it and do it for free? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Here. From Rangeley. Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, happy to take that away and have some conversations with the staff at the Department of Justice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Justice. Oral questions. Member from Yonge Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It seems to be Justice Day, or at least Minister MacDonald Day in some form or fashion. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Minister of Justice, and it's with respect to the community, or one of your communities, the community of Fort Liard. Mr. Speaker, they've run a community policing program for many years, and often we refer to it as the gold standard. Could we do more of these types of things? You know, how important it is and how key it is to have community people working with community people. Mr. Speaker, the question is, has there ever been any evaluation on that program? Thank you.
Member from Yonge Centre. Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate this question coming to the floor very much. So happens we recently went through a priorities exercise, and one of my 3 priorities was to look at this program that was run very successfully in Fort Liard, have a complete evaluation done, and be able to table that document here in the House to see how we can use that to support our ask with the federal government for more funding in other communities to support the rest of the Northwest Territories. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Justice. Member from Yonge Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That sounds promising. So just to clarify the record, who is doing that evaluation? What expertise do they have, and when can we expect it to be done? Thank you.
Member from Yonge Centre. Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are in the process of developing the terms of reference for that evaluation, and that work will be completed in the next few months, and that document will go out to the public. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Justice. Final supplementary. Member from Yonge Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I respect the opportunity that we should always have balance on these particular evaluations, so when there's balance of perspectives. So we, would the minister ensure that not only the social agency side would be part of the communication of setting up the criteria of the evaluation, he would also invite the RCMP to provide their expertise on the essence of the evaluation, so we get a nice 360 point of view of how it's working for various elements of the community, for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, member from Illinois Centre. Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think that that's a very good suggestion. I believe that we want to have a very thorough evaluation. This is certainly going to be a guiding document that will help us to inform our conversations with the federal government. We don't fit right now currently within the program to access additional funding. We want to ensure that we can show the success of this program from all aspects within the community and use that as our guiding document to move forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister of Justice. Colleagues, our time is up for oral questions. Oral questions, oral questions, written questions, written questions, return to written questions. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, I have a return to written question asked by the member for Yellowknife North on October 23rd, 2025 regarding changes to child and youth counseling services. Mr. Speaker, I have a return to written question asked by the member for Grace Slave on October 29th, 2025 regarding actions to improve animal welfare in the Northwest Territories. Mr. Speaker, I have a return to written question asked by the member for Yellowknife Centre on October 31st, 2025 regarding healthcare professionals returning as locums. Mr. Speaker, I have returned a written question asked by the member for Yellowknife Centre on October 31st, 2025 regarding Northwest Territories medical students rejected from residencies. And Mr. Speaker, I have a return to written question asked by the member for Yellowknife Centre on October 31st, 2025 regarding the senior envoy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Clerk. Returns to written questions. Returns to written questions. Replies to the Commissioner's address. Replies to the Commissioner's address. Petitions. Petitions. Reports of committee to the review of bills. Reports of reports on committee on the review of bills. Reports on committee of review of bills. Reports of standing and special committees. Reports on standing committees. Tabling of documents. Tabling of documents. Minister of Health and Social Services. Marge.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the following two documents: additional information for follow-up oral questions 822-20 brackets 1, no-show appointment rates in healthcare clinics, and additional information for follow-up oral question 899-20 brackets 1, Northwest Territories cancer statistics. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
To Minister of Health and Social Services. Table of documents. Table of document. Mr. Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to table the following document, additional information for return to written question 25-20 brackets 1, senior envoy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Table of documents. Table of documents. Member from Great Slave.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to table two documents. One is a jurisdictional scan of public radon testing and mitigation supports in Canada, and additionally, a jurisdictional scan of publicly funded fertility programs in Canada. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, member from Great Slave. Table of documents. Colleagues, pursuant to Section 35(1) of the Legislative Assembly and Executive Council Act, I hereby table the 2025 review of members of the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly compensation and benefits report presented by the Independent Commission to review members' compensation and benefits dated November 2025. I here table the summary of the recommendations of the Independent Commission to review members' compensation benefits tabled November 2025. Member from Tabling Documents. Member from Illinois Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my member statement, I talked about an act that was never fulfilled. It's called, so today I'm going to give the pleasure of the House by tabling the Locksmiths, Security Guards, and Other Security Occupations Act that was passed and ascended on April 18th, 1991. That's 35 years ago, Mr. Speaker. And here's a copy on the record.
From the Yellowknife Centre. Tabling of documents. Tabling of documents. Tabling of documents. Notice of motions. Notice of motions. 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 Notice of motions for first reading of bills. Notice of motions first reading of bills. First reading of bills. First reading of bills. Second reading of bills. Second reading of bills. Consideration of committee of the whole of bills and other matters. Consideration in committee of the whole of bills and other matters. Reports of committee of the whole. Reports of committee of the whole. Third reading of bills. Third reading of bills. Orders of the day, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Orders of the day for Thursday, February 5th, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. Prayer or reflection, minister statements, member statements, recognition of visitors in the gallery, replies to the budget address, day 1 of 7, notice of motions, motions, returns to oral questions, acknowledgements, oral questions, written questions, returns to written questions, replies to the Commissioner's address, petitions, reports on committee of the review of bills, reports on standing and special committees, tabling of documents, notice of motion for first reading of bills, second reading of bills, consideration in committee of the whole of bills and other matters, report of committee of the whole, third reading of bills, orders of the day.
Mr. Clerk, this House stands adjourned until Thursday, February 5th, 2026 at 1:30 p.m.